So what I want to introduce you to is a very, very special guest as well today. We've got Sophie Bartlett. Sophie is one of our newest ambassadors as well, although I feel like, Sophie, you've been in the fold for a little while with us.
Just behind the scenes.
And we're gonna be talking about SATs. I know you're both like sick of SATs, but we're just going to do a little recover of SATs. So if you caught our webinar recently, well, I say recently, a few months ago, about what was on last year's SATs. So what are we looking at for this year's SATs? Obviously it's imminent, but there might be some last minute pointers or things, oh yeah, I might just do that. Then we're going to go over some of those slides that we did in the SATs webinar. Then Sophie's been doing some work for us on the writing moderation. So some of you might get the call that, you know, someone's going to come along and check out some writing at your school. Sophie's done us a brilliant blog about that. She's going to walk us through some of her top tips about that. We've also got the beautiful, the wonderful Kate Brindle from LBQ, who's head of our primary English. How can LBQ help with the writing, but really kind of moving then into some exciting reading resources that we've got coming up this summer. We're doing things a little bit differently with the reading here. So we're going to give you guys first eyes on some of the gorgeous, gorgeous reading material that's coming up. So without further ado, I'm going to share my screen, Sophie, and we will get into talking about SATs a little bit. Sophie, just tell everybody about your teaching career and how you've ended up being the font of all knowledge for SATs papers.
Oh, I wouldn't go that far.
Past and present.
I'm currently on maternity leave at the minute, but before that I taught in year 5, 6 for 8 years, either mixed or year 5 or year 6. So I've been quite used to SATs now. And I think it was probably about 4 or 5 years ago that I started just analysing the SATs papers, because I'm a bit of a data geek and I love analysing stuff. Started blogging a little bit about it, and then people found it interesting, I guess, any numbers people like me, and it was quite helpful in terms of not predicting what's going to come up in the next SATs papers, but how things are weighted and which types of questions come up more often and stuff like that. And then got chatting to Heather, working with Paul and Heather on doing bits for LBQ to do with SATs. So yeah, that's where we are.
Well, so hopefully everybody finds that this is going to get a little bit of something out of this. So this is where we were when we were looking at SATs. Can everybody see that? Can everyone see a weird crock pot cooking apparatus with all the key ingredients to have a successful SATs practice? Now, a lot of you guys, we are preaching to the choir. You'll have been doing targeted revision because you've been doing your question level analysis and so on. So we don't need to go into some of that, but this is the stuff that we really want to get into that Sophie did with us way back when, which is past paper analysis. And we started off with maths, didn't we, Sophie?
Yeah, so you may have seen this grid before or a variation of it, but this is basically every SATs paper that we've had so far since 2016, so the SATs under the new curriculum. And I looked at the types of questions they had in this is across all 3 SATs papers, so the arithmetic and both reasoning papers, and the percentage of questions by content domain. So because I've included the arithmetic paper, you could expect calculations to be quite high, because obviously the arithmetic paper is mainly calculations. So that has consistently been the most common topic. So you can see actually in the most recent SATs paper, it was a huge percentage, 38% of all the questions were taken up by calculations, closely followed by fractions, decimals and percentages, which is so closely linked into calculations. So that would make sense. And I think I don't think the grid's on this slide, but the pass mark is pretty much, I think it's so if you add 38 25% from the 2022 paper, what's that, 63%? I think the pass mark was something like 58%. So theoretically you could pass if you just answered the calculations and FDP questions correctly. So I would always think in my last few weeks before SATs, if I just drilled that and make sure that was as good as it could be, then I was pretty safe. Well, technically.
Yeah, does this bode with everybody else? Does this chime with where you guys think you've been focusing and so on? Don't all shout at once, though, will you? Do you know what I mean? No one's kind of like gone, no, boo, this doesn't make sense to me. So that sounds good then. Okay, so if you're in your final furlong, so you'd be concentrating on those calculations.
Yeah, I mean, I think especially if you've been year 6 for more than a year, that's pretty much just common sense, isn't it? Especially nailing that arithmetic paper, and that is mostly calculation. So that'll follow through to the reasoning. Then there's so many calculations questions in there too.
Bro. Okay, if anyone's got any questions as well about any of this, please do jump in, but we'll move on to grammar.
So this one was slightly harder to analyze. And I guess, you know, so last minute, there's not a lot you can, well, same with maths, there's not a lot you can really do at this stage. But if we're going to do some last minute revision for grammar, I would focus it towards G1 and G5, those content domains, which is grammatical terms or word classes and punctuation. Again, they've been consistently the most common topic since 2016. So this year, I'm trying to do quick maths, they made up 54% of the paper. And every year the pass mark has been between 51-54%. So again, theoretically, just by answering questions based on those two content domains, you could pass. So again, we can assume that they're the same two topics that are going to come up really frequently. So any last minute grammar revision you can squeeze in, like morning tasks, do a bit of punctuation. There seems to be, I haven't broken it down as much here, but there's always loads on commas. So word classes and punctuation, definitely the main ones here.
Yeah. Anybody else concentrating on commas this week? Have we gone comma crazy? She can give you a thumbs up, thumbs down. No. Everybody? No, nobody's doing commas. Kate, what are you doing? Now that you're back from Africa, what are you concentrating on?
Today we did parentheses, and then we did apostrophes, and then we've just been doing the SPAG assessments and LBQ, like a general revision.
Yeah. That's fair, isn't it? We are like days away, aren't we? So just kind of that repetitive, like practice. Okay, fab. So reading. Again,
yeah, this is definitely the hardest because so late in the game. And to say, oh, well, 2A and 2B, sorry, and 2D are the most common content domains. Well, I've put 2A there, but you can see it's actually 2B. Sorry, that was my error. But to teach towards those question types isn't really going to get you very far at this stage. But one thing we can note is that the pass marks have gone up every single year. I think last year, if I put it on there, was 58%. So I would expect that it would either increase again or stay at 58%. The only thing that might be helpful is that poetry hasn't appeared since 2018. In the grid at the bottom, the coloured grid, pink is poetry, green is non-fiction, and yellow is fiction as to what genre the extracts are. So, I mean, I would thought it might have come up last year or even the year before, but obviously hasn't. So, you know, by law of maths, you'd assume that it would come up. But again, you know, you never know. I was talking to someone the other day about this and said they'll probably throw in 3 non-fiction extracts just to throw us all. But yeah, I guess if you've got any time, maybe just, you know, a few poetry extracts might be worth looking at.
Yeah. We were saying this, weren't we, that in the webinar, that we're not psychic. We can't say for sure what's coming up, but just kind of like, so we've not done poetry for a while, so maybe you'd have a little look at some poetry just towards the end there. So yeah, this has been massively helpful. And what we'll do is, I mean, Sophie's doing this with us now into the next year. So we will analyze these papers when we've gone through the other side of these, and we'll look at them on the other side of these SATs now. I appreciate that this is coming to you really late in the day. Hopefully you got to have a look at the recording of the webinar, which is on YouTube as well. These are the summaries that you came up with, Sophie, for us, wasn't it? Maths, calculating, operations, which is what we'll be practicing your punctuation, grammatical terms and word classes, reading retrieval and inference. We know that, don't we? But I mean, that's from lots and lots of varied reading, isn't it, over the years? So we're past that point now. Possibly a little dip your toe into poetry. You also did a brilliant analysis of the year.
Here we are.
Focus, didn't you?
Yeah, sorry, this is what I was talking about earlier. So that top grid is the percentage required to pass. So obviously in 2016 they needed 55% of the answers correct to pass, and in the most recent that's 53%. But what is quite interesting is the percentage of questions that are taken from the years 3 to 5 curricula. So last year 63% of the questions were from years 3 to 5 learning objectives. So again, theoretically, if you hadn't taught any year 6 content, they could theoretically still pass the SATs paper. I've broken it down a little bit more in the grid below. So 37% of it last year was from year 6, but cumulatively the other year groups made up obviously more of that. So I don't know if anyone's like, well, last year with my year 6s, I was teaching mainly year 5 stuff because they'd missed out so much from COVID.
Yeah.
So I did cover year 6 content, but not as much as I wanted to. But actually looking at that, it didn't stress me out that much that I hadn't covered as much, because I knew that at least they had year 3, 4 and 5 stuff down really well.
Yeah, that's really crucial, and it's another thing that that LBQ users have got, is they can reach down into that lower group material really easily, rather than having to race off to the photocopier, try and find something else, do you know what I mean, to be working on. So hopefully all of our LBQ team have been able to reach down into those lower group materials. Then we went to talk about learning gaps, but what's really brilliant about learning gaps with LBQ is that we can see them, identify them really, really quickly and respond to them. So hopefully everybody found that, a little bit interesting. Appreciate it. It's really at the final moments, but does anybody have any questions about that, or any thoughts about that, or anything they want to share with one another? Now you're deep in the thick of it. No, everybody just wants a quick drink and get home, don't they? Everyone's this is that kind of vibe I'm getting. Okay, so well, obviously we're on top of that. Now we were going to Sophie was going to help us out also with writing moderations, because in the next coming weeks or something, is it just before SATs that you get told, Sophie, whether or not someone
I think it's the end of SATs week. I'm sure someone can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it's the last day of SATs week. Yeah.
Put your hands up if you've had a writing moderation. I've had somebody come and check in the last couple of years. Yeah. Any questions about that, Sharice? Anything that came up, or what were your feelings when you got told that they were going to come?
Heart attack. Yeah, just making sure we've got enough evidence and that it's independent. That was the key thing, really, and the range of evidence that we needed to have from the children. Yeah.
And you've got a big cohort there, haven't you?
Yeah, we have. Yeah, got a full class of 30 again. So yeah, and lots of international new arrivals, which makes it quite tricky as well. Yeah. So,
it is challenging, isn't it?
Yeah.
What year was that, Sharice? Because Sophie had a visit in 2019, so just before COVID. So
I think mine was done 2018, I think, or 2017. So I'm not new to the school, but we've not had one since I've been at this school, which is coming up to, I think, 5 years now. So I think we're going to be done this year. So
yeah.
You
think it's going to come? You're going to get the call?
I do. I really do. Yeah.
Oh, well, then you might find some good top tips here from here. Yeah. Good timing. Yeah. No pressure,
Sophie's always good with the tips. Sophie's always good with the tips. So
the brilliant thing about Sophie is she's got the way that she does it, but she doesn't expect anybody else to do it that way. Everybody had their own way of doing it that's equally valid or works for you and your cohort of doing it. But Sophie's always very generous about going, well, can I do it this way? And you take of it what you will, which is really cool. So Sophie, take us back to 2019. How did you feel when you got the call? Did you have a heart attack?
I did, actually, because our year 6 trip, which doesn't happen anymore, we were going to Finland. So we're actually on the plane to Finland, and my head teacher got the email on her phone and she told me, so that ruined my whole 4 days in Finland. So I can't do anything to prepare while I'm here, but at least I had time to kind of process it and put it into perspective. But yeah, it wasn't a pleasant announcement, I have to say.
Yeah, I think that, so you, in your blog that we will share, so Mary will share this with you guys afterwards. We're just formatting it and getting it published and sharing it with you. So you'll get these tips afterwards. But in this blog, you walk through your preparation for the moderation in this blog that you've done for us. How important was it to do that preparation for that confidence to recover from that heart attack?
For me, really important, but I'm glad you said, yeah, I'm very aware that what I did was over and above, and you don't need to do the kind of preparation I did at all. You can literally hand your books over, but I just did it to make sure I was really confident in the discussions that we had. And because I think you might be coming onto this, but because the way our moderation ran was I wasn't allowed in the room with the moderator, that made me much more confident of walking away and leaving her with books, because I knew if she was unsure about any, in fact, I was so confident that she wouldn't be unsure about anything because I had so much kind of evidence in the way I'd evidenced it. Did you want me to talk through that bit now, Heather?
We'll get to it in a little bit.
Okay.
Yeah, because I think it's really important for everyone to know that Sophie, your cohort was 14
Yeah.
children that year, which
Yeah.
is really different to
Yeah.
some of the cohorts that I know people in the room have got numbers much bigger than that as well. So, and let's just talk about what you did then, and then how that affected the fact that the moderator wasn't in the room. So I've written here, get yourself a good set of felt tip pens. So
yeah, I mean, I am a stationery lover, so it helped that I had a nice new set of pastel highlighters and sort of matching tabs to go with it. And I did do this at my previous school where I had 30 children in the class, and it took ages. But again, I did only have 14 this year, and it still took a long time. So I'm aware that it's unnecessary. But I had the ticky grid, the ITAF next to me for each child. And the first thing I did was kind of mainly look at pieces from about March, because that was, you know, where their sort of best writing was, and I put an orange highlighter in the corner of each page, so it was really obvious which pieces of work I wanted to direct the moderator to. I think I had about 4 or 5 at that point, so because I had a few weeks to go, I definitely wanted to fit in another 1 or 2 pieces. Then for each objective or each people can statement, I highlighted it in one colour on the grid, and then every time it was evidenced in a piece of writing, I put a little coloured dot in the margin of that piece of writing to link to the objective. And just for a bit of extra stationery use, really, I put a coloured tab as well on that page. So the moderator literally had the sheet for each child, the coloured highlighted objective, and if she wanted to look for evidence for that objective, she just found that coloured tab and turned to that piece of writing. So I almost forced her to look where I wanted.
I was going to say, you really did guide the moderator. Later, you actually sat with the moderator and they went through it together. Did the moderator follow your coloured breadcrumbs to the excellent examples?
She did. Yeah, and she did say it made her life easier, and that's not what our job is, to make moderators' life easier, but it made my life easier as well, because I then didn't have to spend ages helping her look for evidence, because it was all there laid out in black, well, not black and white, pink, yellow, purple and orange, but
in a lovely pastel rainbow shade.
Yeah.
Therese, sorry to keep picking you, love, because you've had the moderator. Did you get to stay in the room or next to the moderator, or were you also said, yeah, if you leave me the books, I'll have a look, thank you very much?
It was very different for me. I, like Sophie, I had to leave my books. What I will say as well, what I found interesting is that when I was moderated, I was working in a different authority and then coming back into the Bolton Authority. I will say that the 2 authorities were different, the way the moderation was done, even though they make a big thing about saying, oh, it's the same, it really, really wasn't. And what I found strange was the way they varied the evidence that was collected and what they accepted as evidence in terms of marking and things like that. So I would have, for example, marking in the margin, just say like SP for spelling. So somewhere on that line would be a spelling mistake that the children would then go and find. That particular authority said I had marked it, therefore it was no longer a viable piece of evidence and couldn't be discounted. So like Sophie, I'd had it all highlighted and I thought it was all tickety-boo. And then that particular authority said, absolutely no way. But I know this authority that is deemed as good practice. So yeah, it was a very different experience.
Teachers,
it is. Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you for sharing your experience, though, because I think just by doing that, everybody, whether it's exactly the same as yours, first of all, you're not alone. You're not the only person.
No.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And people can just take a little bit from one another about what you learn from that. So,
but I like Sophie's idea of the blobs and the highlighting. I think that's quite clever, really, directing them to where you want to go.
Yeah. It did seem like, and Sophie, it gave you a kind of peace of mind a little bit that, look, I've done all I can do now. I've literally guiding your eyeballs with beautiful pastel shades to the areas that I want you to see. And so that feeling of leaving them on their own with the work was negated slightly because you've done what you could.
Yeah.
So your moderator agreed with your judgments, but she asked to see a bit of additional evidence from 2 of the children that you had in there. Is that normal? And how should teachers feel if they're asked to do this? Does this?
Yeah, I think that is very normal. There were 2 children that I thought I was on the boundary of. I did let her know that when I gave her the books. I actually said, So she didn't think that I was, hadn't thought about them very well. I said, these two I'm not sure of, just to get in there first. And she agreed that she was also unsure of them. And she allowed me to talk about the context of those children, because one had particularly challenging things going on at home. And you could actually see the turning point in her book where the writing kind of went downhill. But she talked through the kind of extra evidence that she needed. And I think I had a week or something to produce it. And it was really smooth and straightforward after that. She again, it's going to be very different for every local authority, but she almost told me what to do in order to produce it and said email that across, and I'm certain that they'll get not moved, but it'll be extra evidence to confirm the grade that you say that they are. So it was really a non-stressful process. And I just wanted to say on the point before, because I run the Year 5-6 Facebook group that's got thousands of teachers in it, and last year, or whenever the last moderation was, there were so many differences between local authorities. Just like we were talking about, someone saying, oh, this moderator allowed this, and then someone else saying we weren't allowed to do that in our local authority. So, trying to be helpful with some of these tips, but like you just never know, what's going to be allowed and what isn't, really, with some stuff.
Where do you go to go, right, I've just moved from a different local authority, where do I get definition on what's acceptable and not acceptable from my
Honestly, I remember asking on Twitter, and different people who were trained as writing moderators even said that what they were taught was different in different like training, their different training groups. So it was I think TS even wrote an article on it. It was a real kind of mess. It still is, I think, personally. That's a different issue.
Shocking. That never happens in education, does it?
Yeah. But we do the best we can.
Can I just say, in a lot of the local authorities, they run their own moderating courses. So in Cambridgeshire, for instance, the council run moderation courses, and I find they're always useful to go on. Because obviously they're the
so you've been to one of those? Is it like so you can go along in person, or is it a Zoom thing?
No, they were in person. We had them in person, and there was 2.
Yeah. And any top tips that you get garnered from going to those that you think? I mean, they say don't highlighters, but
don't stress it. I guess if you cover the curriculum, then everything's going to be there, isn't it? And it's a range of writing, so it's the whole collection, isn't it? So yeah, they might an easy hit semicolons. You wouldn't necessarily expect them to see them in a diary, would you? So don't stress it. Where it's bringing out each text type, if you like. I know we don't use text types, but we do. You bring something else, doesn't it?
Yeah,
as long as they're using it across the writing, that's what matters.
Well, you seem super confident.
No.
I'm getting those vibes, but no, clearly. But it's good that you've got some clarity from your local authority, isn't it, about how that's going to go. And I would say about writing, Sophie, then, because in this blog, everyone's going to be able to see a couple of examples of the children's writing that you're talking about. And I have to say, I was intimidated. And I write for a living. I mean, these were really, really good. I think they were amazing. Does this still work for lower ability pupils? Do you think this?
I mean, this is tricky because obviously there are grades below working towards. And so in the blog, I've included an example of one working towards, one expected, and one greater depth. I think it's generally just the higher demands of the Year 6 curriculum. Like the writing is really difficult to achieve, especially because they have to achieve every objective in order to pass it. So I'm sure everyone's got their own experiences of this, but one that is really annoying is the handwriting one. Is the child can tick off everything, and if they haven't got joint legible handwriting, that can cause some issues, or the same with spelling. And I know there's you can argue for a particular weakness, but that can cause some issues as well. But yeah, it is hard. I just think depending on how you've structured your units across the year and built them up in order to allow the children to be able to write an independent piece at the end of each one using what they've learned before, it is doable. But yeah, it is really tricky. The standard is just so high that they've got to achieve. So yeah, it can be really stressful.
It's the next Hilary Mantel, I think, that Sophie's had in her class. Anyway, we'll put that out there. Anybody got any questions about writing moderation or want to share anything, or no, everybody today is just super cool and completely on top of things, just on fire, the LBQ team. Thank you so much, Sophie, for taking us through those things. She's just become an invaluable member of the team here, helping us across all of SATs and moderation and stuff. So you'll see the blog, we'll get the blog sent out about writing moderation. Any of your thoughts, please do send them back via Mary as well. I'd love to share them with the rest of the team. And also, as we go through SATs, what will be really great, and Mary will coordinate this with you guys, is to get your first impressions of the papers as they come through in the next couple of weeks. What were your immediate thoughts to them? Did you feel that they were hard, easier? How did your kids respond to them? Was a particular question in there that you thought, oh my gosh, that's the cliffhanger question? Was it more wordy, less wordy? Any of your thoughts? Because Sophie does this amazing round that's super popular on the papers themselves, and then later, actually, once the results are released as well. So we will get those out to you, and you'll be able to use that for planning next year. We've got very exciting plans for next year's SATs that I will get you guys involved in as soon as I am allowed to tell you. If I tell you now, someone will kill me. Can LBQ help with writing? So, I'm going to bring Kate in here a little bit. We'll move from writing to reading, Kate, but just there's a kind of starter for 10. Writing, can we help?
We can help. I mean, we're obviously not best placed as a writing platform, although the only writing question set that we do have. Can you see my improving writing with LBQ screen?
Yeah, we can. Yeah.
The only one we do have is actually really, really well used. So I will show you that as well. We do have one specific writing question set, but although we don't have a bank of writing question sets, they are integrated. Questions that involve a written response are integrated through our GPS and reading question sets. So all the mastery, grammar, punctuation and spelling contain 2 writing questions at level 4. So they have to apply all that they've learned in the mastery set and do those written questions at the end. So the questions all start with in your book or on paper, and that's the point at which your children, and they will be doing that independently. I guess it could be considered practice for those year 6 moderations. All the practice question sets, the spelling, the pre-reads, and 2 questions in all the short read question sets do give definitions of words as well, which will feed into broadening pupils' vocabulary, enhancing their writing. The reading question sets all contain 2 questions that require written responses. I asked them to give reasons for their answers. We scaffold it slightly depending on the age range of the children. If I've asked an open text answer question, I might model a good written answer. So an open text answer, why did the fox call the crow a gorgeous bird? And then they'll type in their own answer, but they'll also get a model answer in response. So a good answer might look something like this. And then for longer written answers, I often include a checklist so the children can read back their own writing and give themselves points for including whatever I've asked them to include. I've given an example there from the Battle of Britain text. So although trickier to assess on our platform, there are elements of it scattered through. Here's our only writing question set. Don't know if anybody uses this, but it does get quite good use. So applying improving writing skills to a particular piece of work that the children might be doing. How can you check your spellings? How can you check sentence punctuation? And skills like that. So it's a sort of writing skills based, using dictionaries, using thesaurus.
Has anybody been using the LBQ questions to kind of leapfrog off and practice some writing?
Yeah, we have.
Yeah?
Yeah, I think it's one.
Have you got a favourite question set there, Charisse?
Can you still hear me? I don't know if I've unmuted myself.
Yeah, we can hear you.
I mean, we've started doing a lot of because obviously it's just been LBQ, but and it's worked quite well where we've got the reading task or the SPAG tasks where the children have to, if they've got something wrong, they have to go and write it in their books and do the correction in their books, and that's been really, really helpful, especially for the ones where the spelling is an issue. Having it in there in front of them, it's really helped. And it's promoted the writing tasks as well. Found that really, really useful, actually. Yeah.
There you go, Kate. Brilliant.
Brilliant. Thanks, Charisse.
And in maths as well, because I think that's something that gets forgotten about as well. giving the children an opportunity to explain their thinking in maths. That can be used as evidence for writing moderation as well, and getting them to articulate those answers really helps.
Oh yeah, that's a good thought. It's a really good thought, that.
Yeah.
So that's writing, Kate. Is there anything more to add on that, or shall we?
No, that was just a quick little reminder that although, you know, we don't have a bank of writing question sets, they're just threaded, they are threaded through all the GPS stuff. And for reading, I don't know if anybody's seen or used our new reading assessment. Now, I really was really reluctant to call these assessments, but we were asked for them, and you are asked to assess your children's reading. These don't give definitive scores or levels or grades or anything like that. They are to help inform your teacher assessment of reading. So I've got as far as summer 1. So there will be 2 texts per term. So there'll be an autumn 1 and 2, spring 1 and 2, summer 1 and 2. And these scrollable texts are the same lexile all the way through the year. So rather than giving a definitive grade as such, hopefully you can use them to show progress across the year. So they're all on the same lexile, all the year 3 ones. Or if you find you're running your year 4 reading assessments and they're too difficult, you can drop down and find one of the lower lexiles to make sure your children are reading things at the right pitch. So they've got the same lexile all the way through the year. They've got the same number of questions all the way through the year. So that one's autumn 1. They're a combination of LBQ original stories. They're all fiction. There is some abridged classics. There's a Dr. Dolittle one. And they've got a mix of, in the notes, I give the lexile, but I also give what questions are vocab questions, what are retrieval questions, inference, language, etc. And then there are always 2 questions that require written response in there as well. So those are the reading assessment. However, slightly different for the summer reading ones in that, let me find summer 1. 3. These texts are interconnected. So the summer ones are diary extracts from 4 different perspectives, but they're all based around the same incident. So
I love these, Kate. We're all super excited about these.
Yeah, I hope you love them. It's just for mixed age range classes, you could be using the year 3 and 4. For doing with reading buddies, you could be getting a year 6 pupil to read to a year 3 pupil. You don't often mix up your age ranges for reading, but as a whole school kind of topic about monsters, this is all based on the same incident in a little town in Wales where a monster appears on the scene. So the 4 diary extracts, one's from the perspective of Dougal the dog, and Dougal comes across this monster.
And what year group is Dougal then?
This is for year 3. So
4,
that's Dougal's diary. So that's the monster experience from Dougal's perspective. And then we've got the monster's diary. So the same incident, exactly the same incident, but from a totally different perspective. So they're all linked together like that. Year 5, we've got Ben's diary. So now we've gone to humans. And here's Ben talking about exactly the same incident. So even just for doing the question set, say with your year 4s, and then reading the other diary extracts to your class for fun and looking at things from a different perspective. There's a fairly strong strand of PSHE in them about judging people or animals or monsters who appear different as well. So they've got a little PSHE theme of celebrating difference in there as well. So summer 1 for year 6s is Sam's diary. So we've gone right up to Alexile between 1010 and 1200 there. And they've got how many questions? 32 questions. So a long, quite meaty, scrollable text for year sixes based on the same incident, but from the perspective of a secondary school pupil. And those are in a diary sort of style. I'm hoping to publish by the end of this week the summer 2 text, which is still based around the monster incident, but there's 4 different reports in this case now. So there'll be a fact file for year 3s. There'll be a monsters school report. That didn't take me long to write. That all came flooding back to me, writing school reports. A newspaper report and a police report around that incident. So all those 8 texts are all interconnected. And, you know, the opportunities for written responses there, I hope will result in some lovely work. And I'd, if anybody does anything lovely, I'd love to see it. That'd be really nice. Give me some feedback. Let me know what you think.
Yeah, no, that sounds lovely. Also, I just wondered, just looking at them as well, whether we were talking to Ashley Booth recently about the idea of children being able to kind of, I don't guess it's not, but what happens next in the story, or summarize the story so far, and what and this kind of like monster mystery feels like it's got potential for kids.
There's lots of opportunities. And I've sort of scaffolded, you know, the written questions with, you know, write your own monster fact file. I've started them off with a little scaffold of how that, you know, might look, or give them a little prompt on the name, but then they're free to go off and use their imaginations as they like. And I'd love to meet lots of different monsters in the end. That'd be lovely.
Amazing, actually.
Meet your monsters.
Do it and you get some monsters and you can send some monsters into us. That would be brilliant. We could put those out on socials as well and give prizes out to kids who come up with the best monster. I'm just getting very carried away.
The monster.
Yeah. So there's life after SATs, people, and that's some really lovely stuff.
A bit of fun.
Yeah.
A bit of fun.
The whole idea of kind of having a cross year group, old school kind of reading project, monster project sounds like a lot of fun, and hopefully you guys find that that's useful, something to do over the summer. We're very excited about that. Thanks so much, Kate. Anybody got any questions about the exciting new summer reads? Tracy's just popping it straight into her diary. Yep, summer reads, monsters, done, marvelous. Thank you very much. I don't have anything else. Does anybody have any LBQ related questions or any LBQ related experiences they want to share or anything? I mean, Kate just set us off with, you know, going to Africa and building schools. So we kind of peaked early on, didn't we, Kate? Thanks so much. But anybody got anything not quite as exciting as that, but maybe just as valid? You guys are just cool as cucumbers. It's nice to see your faces though, and to know that you're all just making it through. You just carrying on, making it through. So we've just finished peak week. Oh, well, we're into another peak week, but last week we typically see the most answers on LBQ, which we did so far. So we were just shy, hair's breadth shy of 6 million answers from pupils last week alone. So it just kind of goes to show just how hard everybody is working. And in the last week, since Christmas, we have had on average 20 new schools a day getting in touch with us to say, can we take a supported trial of this? We've heard great things about it. We would really like to have a go. And I just pass this on to you guys because largely you guys have been helping by spreading the word about us and telling one another about it and going to those head teachers meetings and so on. So it all comes from you. B, just to feel that glow of the fact that you guys were first. You were here at the beginning and it's really just taking off now, but I should get some badges or t-shirts may say, yeah, I was here at the beginning. Thanks. I was in the first 100. So yeah, it's been an incredible end of last year, beginning of this year. And it's all thanks to you guys for getting our ball rolling and talking to people. Sophie's done an incredible job. I mean, we did the webinar for SATs. And in 3 hours, 1,000 people had signed up to watch that webinar. And, you know, people were signing up at 3 o'clock in the morning, 4 o'clock in the morning. So we know the stress that people are under at this time of year, and hopefully LBQ is going a long way to helping them. Yeah, you guys are just the best. I did kind of hope that we might be able to get together in the summer term in person, preferably in the Midlands. I haven't completely ruled that out either, but we are just in the thick of some new evolving LBQ. There's some really exciting additions I think you're going to be absolutely thrilled about over the summer, but I'm just a terrible tease because I can't actually tell you what they are yet, but I will, and you guys will be the very first to know. I think that wraps us up for today, and you'll be pleased about that because, you know, you want to get home, won't you? And you know, recoup and get ready for the day at school tomorrow. Any last words from anybody before we hit the button and you all go get a large Chardonnay in a dark room? No, everybody's good. Marvelous. Okay, it's been a joy. Thank you so much. Thanks for everybody who contributed and all our new friends and family who've joined. Thanks so much to Sophie for coming in, and for Kate for taking us through those monsters. I'm serious about the monsters, guys. I want to see some monsters this summer. All right. Thank you so much, everybody. Have a lovely afternoon and the rest of your term. Best of luck with the SATs.
Okay.
Thanks, Heather.
Bye, everybody. Good luck with it all.